This opening section is about someone experiencing an unexpected connection that bypasses their usual emotional defenses. The speaker begins by saying they won't mirror it softly, meaning they are done minimizing or hiding what they feel. They are preparing to admit something intense and difficult to explain. The main ideas: 1. Emotional walls and control. The speaker describes living in layers. This means they usually keep parts of themselves hidden. Not because they don't care about people, but because distance gives them control and protects their deeper self from being misunderstood. They decide who gets close, who sees the real them, how much they reveal. Their identity is built around being unreadable. Someone breaks the pattern without forcing it. The important difference about you is that this person didn't try to analyze or change the speaker. Others try to understand by asking questions, creating assumptions, putting labels on things, but this person simply observes and understands naturally. The speaker finds this unusual because they are used to people only seeing the surface. Recognition instead of discovery. A major theme is that the connection doesn't feel like two strangers learning each other. It feels like, you already understand me. You notice things I never say. You see what exists beneath my words. The speaker is confused because this level of understanding usually takes years, but here it appeared instantly. Why it feels dangerous. The speaker says familiarity is more powerful than force. Someone forcing their way in can be resisted, but someone who naturally fits into your world is harder to protect yourself from. The fear is not that this person is invading boundaries. The fear is that the boundaries no longer feel necessary. Silence becomes the connection. The speaker focuses on how this person understands silence. Most people try to fill silence because they feel uncomfortable. This person allows silence to exist. That makes the speaker feel seen, accepted, understood without explanation. Core message of part 1. 8. I spent my life controlling who could see the real me, but you somehow understood me without trying to enter. You didn't break my walls. You made me realize I didn't need them around you. This part establishes the emotional conflict, wanting to protect yourself while realizing someone has reached a place inside you that nobody else has. Continues from the moment where the speaker realizes this connection is no longer just an interesting interaction. It is starting to change the way they exist internally. The loss of emotional filtering. The speaker says they started filtering less. Usually, they carefully choose what to say, what to hide, how much emotion to reveal, but around this person, that process starts disappearing naturally. The important point is that this is not because the speaker was convinced or pressured. It happened because they felt, I don't need to adjust myself for you to understand me. That is a rare feeling for someone who is used to protecting their inner world. Being accepted without being changed. The speaker highlights that this person never tried to fix them, make them more open, make them easier to understand, remove their complexity. Instead, they accepted what was already there. This matters because the speaker is not looking for someone who simply likes the easy version of them. They are affected by someone who sees the difficult parts and still stays. The difference between being seen and being truly understood, a powerful idea appears here. There is a difference between someone accepting you because they don't fully know you and someone accepting you because they actually see you. The speaker believes this person belongs to the second category. That creates vulnerability because once someone truly sees you, hiding becomes harder. Losing the protection of being misunderstood, the speaker admits that being misunderstood was a kind of protection. If people don't fully understand you, they can't judge the deeper parts, they can't affect what you keep hidden. You remain in control, but this person removes that shield, not by force, by accuracy. They don't create an image of the speaker. they recognize the real one. The moment of realization, the speaker remembers a small moment, not something dramatic. A simple comment or observation from this person matched something the speaker had never expressed. That moment becomes important because it proves this person isn't guessing. The speaker feels they are being understood from the inside rather than interpreted from the outside. Cons, through structure, not just emotion, the speaker says this connection is not only about feelings, it is about similarity in the way they exist. How they think, how they observe, how they process the world, how they understand things beneath the surface. The bond feels less like attraction and more like recognition. Core message of part 2, I spent years protecting my inner world, but you never tried to break into it. You simply understood it. And that changed the way I see you, because for once I feel recognized instead of analyzed. The emotional shift in part 2 is from you understand me to your presence is changing how I understand myself. Moves deeper into the speaker's realization that this connection is no longer something they can keep at a safe distance. The focus shifts from being understood to being affected. Distance no longer works. The speaker says they have always controlled access. Who gets close? Who stays outside? What parts of them are visible? Distance was their way of keeping things stable. But with this person, distance stops working. Why? Because the person already exists beyond the boundary. The speaker's usual protection depends on separation. But this connection exists even without closeness. Awareness becomes constant. The speaker describes a change. They are no longer simply thinking about this person. The person has become part of their awareness. This is an important shift. Thinking about someone still keeps them separate. Thinking with someone means their presence has entered the way you process thoughts, decisions, and experiences. A change in the internal world, the speaker notices small changes. Thoughts pause as if expecting another perspective. Certain moments feel shared, even when alone silence feels different. The connection is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, but it has become part of the speaker's mental space. The fear of being changed, the speaker has always been self-contained. They trust their own internal system. So the unsettling part is not that this person is powerful. It is that the speaker allowed the influence. Normally, anything that threatens their emotional structure gets removed, but this person wasn't removed. They were accepted. 5. Fitting becomes the dangerous part. The speaker says, fitting is dangerous because when something fits, it creates a place. And when someone has a place inside your life, their absence leaves something behind. The speaker usually closes those empty spaces. But with this person, they are unsure if they could. That uncertainty reveals how significant the connection has become. 6. The speaker recognizes a quiet choice, the biggest realization. They didn't consciously decide to let this happen, but they also didn't stop it. That means some part of them already accepted it. The conflict is not, do I feel something? The conflict is, why did I allow this when I normally wouldn't? You didn't force your way into my world. Somehow, you became part of it. And the thing that scares me is not losing control. It's realizing I don't want to take that control back. It is about the speaker reaching a point where recognition turns into responsibility. They can no longer just observe the connection. They feel they have to face what it means. 1. Awareness becomes something that demands an answer. The speaker says there is a moment when awareness stops being passive. Before, they noticed the connection, they analyzed it, they watched it develop. Now, they have to respond to it. The connection has moved from something they experience to something that has consequences. 2. The internal change cannot be undone. The speaker notices they are no longer the same internally. The change appears in subtle ways. Their thoughts don't return to how they were before silence, now feels meaningful. They measure honesty differently. The important idea, the person didn't just enter their life. They change the speaker's internal framework. 3. The first real vulnerability the speaker admits, "Dasts, I don't adjust my internal world for anyone." This shows how unusual this is. They are someone who normally protects their independence. They don't allow others to influence their thinking. But this happened without permission, not through pressure, through connection. 4. The problem with leaving it undefined, the speaker realizes that something this deep cannot remain unnamed forever. Everything eventually reaches a point where it must either become something clearer, break under uncertainty. The speaker is uncomfortable because they prefer clarity and control. But this situation does not provide a simple answer. 5. Logic versus something deeper. The speaker normally works through certainty. Understand first, decide second, act last. But this connection does not follow that system. There is no guaranteed outcome, no perfect explanation, yet they still remain. That fact becomes the evidence. 6. Staying is already a choice, one of the strongest moments. The speaker realizes that not leaving is itself an action. They usually remove anything unstable, but they didn't. They stayed. They allowed the connection to exist, meaning, even without saying it, they already made a decision. Core message of part 4. I kept trying to understand what this is, but I'm realizing the bigger question is what I'm going to do with it. Because I've already allowed it to matter. Is the point where the speaker stops asking, "What is this?" and starts facing the deeper question, what happens now that I know it matters? 1. The connection reaches a turning point. The speaker realizes this is no longer something happening quietly in the background. It has reached a stage where ignoring it takes more effort than accepting it. Before, they could observe. Now they have to acknowledge the connection has moved from awareness, uncle, acceptance. 2. The fear is not the feeling. It's the consequence. The speaker is not afraid because they feel something. They are afraid because feelings create change. And change is something they normally control carefully. This connection affects how they think, how they interpret moments, how they see themselves. It has become part of their reality. 3. They recognize they already crossed a boundary. The speaker says they crossed a line internally, not through actions, not through words, but through allowing someone to matter. For someone who protects their inner world, that is the biggest form of vulnerability. The boundary wasn't crossed by the other person. The speaker opened it. 4. Acknowledgement makes it real, a major theme. As long as something stays undefined, it can remain safe. But naming it changes everything. Once you admit, this matters, you also admit, this can affect me. And that introduces risk. 5. The struggle with control. The speaker admits they don't move without certainty. They want understanding, predictability, a clear outcome. But this connection does not offer those things. It exists outside their normal logic. Yet they still choose to remain present. That is what makes it different. 6. The hidden decision has already happened. The speaker realizes their actions already reveal the truth. They didn't shut it down. They didn't reduce it into something easier. They didn't walk away. They continued meeting this person in that space, meaning a choice was already made before they consciously admitted it. Core message of part 5. I thought I was still deciding whether this mattered, but my actions already answered that question. I allowed this connection to exist, and that means it has already changed me. Part 6 is the final emotional realization of the monologue. The speaker reaches a place where they are no longer trying to analyze the connection. They are accepting the impact it has already had. 1. The question changes. Earlier, the speaker kept asking, "What is this?" But now the question becomes, "What am I going to do with it?" That is a major shift. They are no longer confused about the existence of the connection. They are confronting the responsibility that comes with it. 2. Something meaningful cannot stay still. The speaker believes things like this cannot remain untouched forever. A deep connection eventually has to grow, become clearer, or break. The uncertainty becomes uncomfortable because the speaker is someone who normally defines things. They don't live comfortably in the unknown. 3. The connection does not weaken them, a powerful point. The speaker does not describe this person as someone who takes away their independence. Instead, they say this person changes them without reducing them. The connection is not neediness, dependence, loss of identity. It is described as an adjustment, something that adds a new layer to who they are. 4. Change requires a reason. The speaker says they never allow change without purpose. So if this person has affected them, there must be a reason. They cannot dismiss it as random. The depth of the impact itself becomes proof that it matters. 5. The final acceptance, the ending, reaches the clearest realization. This person is no longer just someone the speaker understands. They have become part of the speaker's way of understanding, meaning the connection has moved from external to internal. It is no longer just, I know you. It becomes, you influence the way I see. Core message of part 6. I spent so long trying to understand what this connection means, but the truth is already visible. You changed something in me, and the fact that I allowed that change is the answer I was searching for.